All right, welcome back, everyone. I am going to expand on our time conversion pseudocode, which we did here, and turn that into a flowchart. So if you want to follow along with me and see how this all goes, do it. So first things first, I'm going to open up a Chrome tab window, and I'm going to open up a tab. I'm going to go to draw.io. Right. I have mine set up that it just brings me to a blank diagram. If you have to do some initial setup as to where to save it where you'd like, whether it be the device or maybe a Dropbox or Google Drive, please go ahead and do that. I'm going to title the diagram really quick as my time flow chart, and I'll keep it as an XML file. So here's how draw.io basically works. You have a couple things here. You've got a couple panes on the left that show you your flowchart symbols, pane on the right to do some designs, diagrams, and styles. I'm going to use mostly what's on the left-hand side here. I'm going to collapse the general and open up flowchart. Here you generally have your flowchart symbols that you can kind of work with, and there's lots of different ways to do this. First and foremost, I'm going to drag in a terminal symbol. So it says terminator. It's kind of an oval-like symbol. I'm going to put it dead center in the page, and I'm just simply going to type while it's selected. If it's not selected and I start typing, it's going to put in kind of a note, which I don't really want. If I select the item and just start typing, I can type directly into it. So there's my start. Now from there, I can drag in whatever shapes I want. Okay, so for instance, my declarations, I could bring that in. I can line it up right underneath. I can make this box a little wider if I want using the handles, which is nice. Maximize and minimize it, make it whatever size I want. But again, once it's selected, I can type right in it. Declarations. You know what? Let's just do this. We'll bring our pseudocode along for the ride so we can see everything. So here are my declarations, and what I'm going to do is essentially type exactly what we had before. We have an integer for the starting seconds. We had an integer for the hours, integer for the minutes, and an integer. Okay, so we have an integer for the seconds. After that, once you start putting things together, you can connect things with flow lines. If you just simply don't select it per se, but hover over it, you'll see smaller handles pop up. These little X's are handles that you can connect from one shape to another with a flow line. If you simply click and drag, you'll be able to connect it to another handle. If you don't get the proper flow line, you can always change the style of the line here in the style tab. So all you got to do is select it, and you can change the endpoints, what it's weighted as, color, so on and so forth. But again, I like a nice straight vertical line all the way down. Now, obviously, that can be a bit tedious, so there are some shortcuts here where you can click these down arrows and then get some quick shapes. You can either just select what sort of pops up, or if you click it, you can get more. The first one's always to duplicate what you currently have, and then you can start putting things in there the way that you need. So here I'm going to have my first set of output and input. So I'm going to put in a parallelogram. Let's delete that real quick and put it in connected. Okay, there it is. It kind of pre-connects it. And I'm going to say display the enter a number of starting seconds. Okay, and I can widen that out. And again, it stays connected. I'm just going to make sure it stays a nice um, vertical line here. It's very straight. I'm going to duplicate that so it's nice and easy. And honestly, you can just start kind of copy and pasting. Okay, bringing things over. If your pseudocode's written really well, you shouldn't have to change a whole lot for your flowchart. Just make sure you get it all in the right symbols. Here, the processing, since it's the word set here, we're going to go with rectangles. So I'm going to click, I'm going to bring in a rectangle here. Okay, and I'm going to set my hours. Okay, and I'll make that a little bigger so it looks a little better. Bring it over, line it up. I will duplicate that, and I will just simply change the text. Okay, so we'll get that all lined up, and we will set the seconds. Don't necessarily need the comment in there. Okay, if you want to put comments in there, that's what these are for, an annotation for yourself, so that you can kind of put something off to the side to say, hey, this is what this is doing. So if you want to click and drag that in there, this annotation might have something, and then you can kind of type directly into that annotation. Actually, I put it over here on the right side so we know what we're talking to. And then I could say this is the seconds remaining. Okay, things of that nature. So a nice little annotation. But let's finish it up. We're going to have our minutes. I'll click into that and paste, and we'll have our seconds as well. And again, I'm going to clean this up by moving some things up. If you find that you're off by just a little bit, you can always use the arrow keys to kind of micro adjust where things are at if you're a perfectionist like I am in terms of getting that put together. Then again, we're going to go with the display. Okay. Now, I like having things in separate boxes since it's all just one display and not like display input. If you want to kind of put these print statements together in one parallelogram, you're more than welcome to. I think the idea is there without any issue, but I like putting them together and doing this. So we could essentially do this, put that all in there, and we'll just make this a really big box. Sorry about the bell. Now, I would not have done this, okay, up above because this is a display while this is an input. But if I do have several displays happening one after the other, this is one way you can kind of put it together. But I do want to see that word display, 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 simply because I know this is all going to come on separate lines of text. And then finally, I have my terminal symbol. So I'm actually going to click and drag that back in because it doesn't show up in the short menu. And we'll put stop, and that will connect the two the other. And that there is our finished flowchart. Now, in order to work with this, obviously I'll want to save some things. I can save it to my drive. So if I'm going to save, I can pick a root folder, and I'm going to put this in our 1400 folder, chapter 2. Okay. And then if you're going to turn this in, you can actually export this in a lot of different ways. You can hit file and then, what is it? Export as. You can export it as a PNG, okay, or a PDF if you'd like. PNGs would be fine if you want to put this in the Word document. PDF would be fine if you want to upload this to Blackboard, directly to Blackboard. And then you have some options here for cropping, grid, include a copy of my diagram, transparent background, so on and so forth. If I hit export and just export to the device so that it downloads, then I'll get um, a PDF of my document, and you can turn that in very easily. So that's essentially what we're looking for out of our PDF or out of our flowchart. If you have any questions with that, let me know, and I'd be happy to help you. Otherwise, in the next video, I'll be talking about how to code this appropriately using Python.